Hello, hi, my name is Cynthia Henry, and I am the librarian for the College of Human Sciences. Today we're going to learn how to use the library resources so we can find information for our assignments. Okay, let's get started. Let me share my screen and get going. We're on the main library website. The library URL is library.ttu.edu. I know that's not what is up here, but I like to be able to remember something pretty simple, and library.ttu.edu is pretty simple. So here we are on the main page. We can do a lot of things from this page, but I'm going to first get us into our personal librarian page. I'm going to click on this blue box here that says personal librarians. And we're going to look for College of Human Sciences. Then we're going to look for Community, Family, and Addiction Sciences. And then we can use this page as our jumping off page. We'll talk a little bit about Academic Search Complete today, but the rest of these databases are really good for your research as well. PsycInfo covers a little bit more behavior. Family Studies is looking at the whole unit. Psychology and Behavioral Sciences, again, is looking at behavioral sciences. Academic Search Complete is a full database that probably has something from every major on campus in it. And then Article First is a little bit more in-depth and can be a little bit overwhelming, but has some materials that maybe the others don't cover. And then we have a streaming service here that may have some videos that a professor might recommend you to watch. But you're welcome to dig in there as well. Okay, let's go ahead and get into Academic Search Complete. So Academic Search Complete is the name of this database. It's by EBSCO. If you click on this Show All, you see the name Academic Search Complete, but the name of this database is not EBSCO. EBSCO is the vendor, and Academic Search Complete is the name. And I like to kind of point that out and refer it kind of like to Oreos. Oreos is the name of the cookie. Nabisco is the vendor or the big brand that shares that with everybody. So a lot of times students will come into my office and say, oh, I found a really great article. I thought I sent it to myself in an email. It didn't come through. Can you help me find it? But all they can tell me is that they were in EBSCO. EBSCO is such a big vendor of databases that we probably have 100 EBSCO databases. So you really need to know the database you were in, which in this case would be Academic Search Complete. So please know which database you're searching. That will be helpful for you. And I guarantee between the two of us, we could find it if you knew the database that you were in. And then I typically like to use the advanced search. So I'm going to click on that. And then we're going to start doing some searching here. Let's look at higher education. And let's go ahead and run this search. You can see we're going to narrow down as we add more terms. So we have quite a few results here. You can see. And then we're going to add in ethics. Oh, I'm not typing. Hold on. Ethics. And I'm going to go ahead and put in United States. And then I'm going to click search. And you're going to see we've narrowed down some. Still not as small a set as I want. So I'm going to come over here to my results to refine them, limit it to. I'm going to mark peer reviewed. Now let's talk about that. As we mark peer reviewed, anything that's peer reviewed, refereed, juried, that is all terminology that is similar, and it just means that a panel of experts in that field have reviewed the material, and that's how it was published into the journal. And so that just means that those journal articles that are peer reviewed have a little bit more authority because an expert has reviewed them. Then we're also going to update our date range. Now I could type in this box to narrow it down, or I can also use this sliding bar, and I'm just going to drag that up to 2018. That would give us about the last 5 years, just shy of the last 5 years. And so that's a good marker. Sometimes your professor wants you to limit to the last 10 years, last 5 years. So this would be a good way to do that. And so now we're down to about 150. And that's a pretty good set. I try to get it to about 100. But sometimes when you have a large topic such as this, 150 is not bad. But if you get something really small where you only have like maybe 20 results, that's a good time to reach out to me. Or you may think of synonyms for your terms and try those. Because if you're down to just like 20, you may have just chosen a wrong word and it just change it slightly and it will give you a bigger set. So a good example I use is sometimes people will talk about teenagers or teens, but the best label for that population would be adolescents, especially in a formal setting such as a journal article. If you use that term, it would really change your results a lot. And so I just, if you don't know what terms you're using, feel free to reach out. And if you just kind of try some different terms that are similar meanings, then that will help you kind of narrow down what you should be using. Okay, let's go ahead and look at a few of these. Oh, here, this one's not too bad. Let's go ahead and click on this. I'm just going to click on the title of this record, and that will put me into the record of that item. And this is the title of the article. So it's Beyond Higher Education as We Know It, Gesturing Towards Decolonial Horizons of Possibility. The author is from Sharon Stein. The source, that means where it was published. This is in the Journal of Studies in Philosophy and Education from March 2019, volume 38, issue 2. And that's the page range, and that includes 19 pages. Now, everything up until that 19 pages, all of this information would have to be in your citation if you were going to use this for a PowerPoint presentation, or if you were going to use this in an article or a paper that you were writing yourself. And so to get that, you might want to look over here under the cite. And if you click on that little cite, it will help you build the citation for several different styles. So most people use APA 7th on campus, but sometimes the English class will expect you to be using MLA, and depending on your major, you may be in a slightly different citation style. And so but most people are using APA 7th as the default on campus currently. And I know Human Sciences uses APA 7th. So you could just copy and paste this into an email to yourself or onto a Word doc or however you're going to store your research. But remember, the APA has a hanging indentation, and when you copy and paste this, it usually takes out that hanging indentation. So make sure you put it back in. And then a lot of times when you copy and paste this, it copies and pastes it with it colorized. All you have to do is strip that color out, and so it would not be highlighted as green. I think is what it comes over as sometimes. So just be aware of that. Then once you get the citation that you need, I do typically kind of look and see if everything is correct when I pull it over, because humans are still entering this data as well. So I know that it was written in 2019. That's right. I checked the volume in the issue. That's right. So just make sure you're aware of those kind of pieces. You should be familiar enough with the style that you're using. You can kind of pick out some big issues. And if you don't know that, you can always check out a manual here at the library. We have several copies of APA and MLA, but you can only use those in the building. So just be aware of that. Okay, so let's talk about some other pieces of this record. So we talked about the citation information, and it tells our subject terms and our author supplied keywords. And while the author supplied keywords are really useful because the author knows what he or she has been writing about, these subject terms are more applicable because this is how this article was indexed into this database. So if I thought those was really on target for my research and I wanted to find more like it, I may want to look through this list and add some of those to my terms or change a term. But we have ethics on higher education up here. Those are pretty on topic. So I think we're doing pretty good. The other thing, here's the abstract, which is just the summary paragraph of the article. And EBSCO is really nice to bold anything that is in our keywords up here to in the paragraph. So you can quickly scan that and see what is being discussed there if you didn't read the whole paragraph. So then let's say we wanted to actually read this article, how would we go about doing that? Well, we're going to look over here on the left, and we're going to see the PDF full text, but we also see the HTML full text. Now, if you have these two sitting side by side, I always encourage you to get the PDF. And technically, the HTML full text is just at the bottom of the record here. If you're just going to read it here, that's one thing, but I kind of like the PDF. You can download it, store it, and then also if you're citing late on a Sunday night and you haven't copied the citation down, you can usually build it from the PDF, and you can see all the pieces here. You can see the page numbers here. You can see the journal title at the top here. Yeah, right here at the top. So I would just make sure I always keep the PDF. Then you can download it or you can print it, depending on how you like to do your research. But remember, you're going to be using this black bar to do either of those, not this outside toolbar, because this will only print all this frame, not the article itself. So just be aware of that. And I'm just going to go back to our results list. So we were kind of looking at this number 4, and we saw that we could get the PDF or the HTML. But let's look up at this one. It does not have the PDF sitting here. How would we look at this article? Well, again, I could click in it and use the Find It button where the PDF was, or I can use it from this screen. And the Find It option here is our links resolver for the library. So that means that not only is it looking through this database, but it's looking through all the other databases that we have to see if we have a copy for you. So because it's not full text here. So we're going to click and see what happens. So sometimes when I click on the Find It, it will actually take me to a record in our catalog. Or in this case, it will take me to the journal with the PDF attached here. So this is a different vendor. It's by Sage Journals. And the PDF is in a slightly different place. They kind of all put them in different places. So kind of look around the perimeter of the screen to see if you can find it. A lot of times they're here on the right. Sometimes they're over here on the left. One vendor makes you scroll all the way to the bottom of the page. So we can see this is the PDF here. I can open this and have the PDF ready to go and download it or print it from this area. And again, I always encourage you to get the PDF because it will have the citation information included. So I'm going to go ahead and click close here. I'm back on the place where it found the article for us in the Sage Journals, and I'm going to close this. And now we're back on our database that we started in. So what happens if we don't end up into the PDF in a vendor when we have to Find It? Sometimes it will say no full text available, and we would have to use another option, the requested list here. But this one did find it, and I can just follow this through. This is actually a record in our catalog, and you can see that it says Find Online. It found it in 2 collections. And let's kind of talk about how to read the screen. So it says it's available from 1988 on until the most recent year is not available. So that means in 2022 it would not be available. But since our article was from 2019, remember, then we could find it, and we can just click either one of these and it would work. Sometimes it will say the last 5 years are not available. So that would not be the case here for 2019. We would have to request it. But let's follow this through since we haven't tried one of these. I'm just going to click on this database. It doesn't matter which one you pick when you have a list like that. They'll all take you to the same location. And here is the PDF. Again, this is another vendor called ProQuest, but I can use the download or the print options here. So I'm going to close this window, and I'm back on the record. So let's talk about if these 2 options were not listed and it said no full text, we would only have the requested item. And so that is actually linked to our document delivery interlibrary loan program. And so I'm going to show you how it works with my account, and then I'll show you how to set up your own account. So I'm going to click on it. It's actually going to open my interlibrary loan account, my Iliad account for document delivery service. I know that it's my account because it has my name up here, C. Henry, Cynthia Henry. And now look what it's done. It's pulled in all the information that we needed to type in to request this item. It automatically filled out the form for me. All I have to do is hit submit request, and it would be processing that. Now, anything that we can share with y'all electronically, we usually get that in about 48 hours during the business week, and I can track those in the main menu area. So I'm just going to click on this, and I'm on the main menu area for this account. I can request multiple items from this location, but it also allows me to see what is pending in my request. So when I hit the submit request, it would set up a pending request here. And so then they would start looking for it. Once they found it, they would send me an email to my TTU email account, and it will tell me to come in here, electronically received, and retrieve it from there. So then I can just come in and click on any of the PDFs here, and it would open the PDF for that article, and I could download it or print it. So I'm going to go ahead and click back, and so we're into this area. I'm going to go back to main menu. Now let's say I actually requested a whole book. Now, depending on how far away that book is coming from, if it's coming from Austin, it may be 2 or 3 days. If it's coming from Oregon, it may be 7 days. So just realize that as you're building your research, you may need to plan ahead. So if I want to write a paper on Sunday afternoon to turn in the next week, I want to make sure I want to do my work, my research, at least by the Monday before. So I would have a whole week to get my materials together. And that's at the bare minimum. Sometimes I suggest, especially if you're going to use a lot of books, 2 to 3 weeks out so that you can have time to get anything that you might need here. And if you had something that was coming out as a book, you'll get an email to come in and pick up that book here in the document delivery office, which is on the main floor, the ground floor of the university libraries. And you could come into the document delivery office and request that. And then it will actually be checked out here, as I have a book checked out to me currently. So, okay, let's show you how to set up your own account. I'm just going to quickly get back on our main page, and that would be document delivery interlibrary loan. Click on this, sign in with your e-rater. The first time you set this up and sign in, it will ask you to fill out your form. It will ask you, your name and your email address. Make sure you put in TTU email address, as we cannot send materials to Yahoo or Gmail, because some of the subscriptions that the library provides to students, that is one thing that is a qualifier. We have to email it only to TTU accounts, so just be aware of that. And then you could request things manually if you wanted to, like I was showing you. I could open a book request and fill out the information and just hit submit, or any other request. Or if you've got it set up, then it will work in the database as mine was, and it will help fill in some items. So that is nice. I like that a lot because then I don't have to retype all that information. Once I'm done with the Iliad account, I'm just going to click sign out, and then you will be out of that system. Okay, so now we're back in the records. I'm going to go ahead and click this. So we're back into our database. And that's a little bit about searching in EBSCO, specifically the Academic Search Complete database. Let's go ahead and open another tab and do some searching for a book. I'm just going to use this front search box here instead of digging into one. We can do a search. Let's just do a search for communication, and then we can talk about what we find here. Oh, I must have misspelled. Sorry, guys. Here we go. So you can see that we have some different options. This is a whole journal that you can access online. This is a streaming video that you can access online. This is an item that has multiple versions. So if I wanted to see all the versions, I would click here, and it would open that. So I could see oh, we have the book, and we have 2 copies of the same book, maybe an updated version, and this one is really good. So it tells me that it's available here in the university library, and that means that green means that it should be on the shelf. Somebody may have pulled it right before you go up, so occasionally it will say that. But otherwise, if it was checked out, it would say checked out here instead of available at. And then it tells you which library, because we have multiple libraries on campus. We have the architectural library in the architectural building, and you have to enter that on the 9th floor. And then we also have the Southwest collections, so you may see Southwest here, and that is actually the building next door to the university libraries. And then we have the law library too. And so we have, then it tells you within that library what part of the building it's in. So it's in the stacks here in the university library, and it happens to be on floor 3, and this is the call number. Now, some people think that they can just write down the P90 and then they'd be able to find it. There are so many books up there. Please write down the whole call number and find it that way. So first you look for the P's, then P90, then you look for P90B, and so on. But if you have a hard time up there, feel free to come and get a librarian from the mezzanine floor. That's where my office is mezzanine 116. But you could also go down to the main floor, the ground floor, and get a student from the service desk. They'd be happy to help you as well. And then you can just pull that book and then check it out with your ID. So let's go ahead and look at a few other things. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close this, and we're back on our page here. On this page, some other things that we can look for is, here's my contact information. Like I have email me or make an appointment with me. It also has my room listed here, and the phone number. Feel free to reach out to me any way that you would like to. The make an appointment actually lists times that you can click on and pick the time that you want on the day that you want. If it's open, then it will be available there. If it's not open, then there will be no hour there. And those appointments are usually about 30 minutes, and I'm happy to help you in any way. We can make an appointment through Zoom, or you can come into the office, whichever you feel most comfortable. Okay, so then I'm just going to click on this double T and get us back on the main page. And let's talk about news information. So I'm going to get into this databases A to Z. And we have a whole setup here, news and newspapers. These are all news and newspaper databases. And if you're looking for a particular time period, you may want to do that. Or if you're looking just for any news around the world, you may want to use Access World News. Or another good one is Newspaper Source, which is a little bit further down because they're alphabetical. But you can always type here and find Newspaper Source, and it would come right up. But I am going to actually show you how to use Access World News, which is a large conglomerate of news gathered together. So I'm going to click on the online access. I'm going to look around. To me, this screen is a little overwhelming. You can look through the suggested topics. In fact, what we were looking at today could probably be under education. Or if you wanted to look at a special area, so you can see different newspapers across the states here. So Dallas Morning News Collection, or things that are local to Lubbock, or the Lubbock Avalanche here, could be a little bit more narrowed. Or let's go ahead and do higher education and ethics and see what we get. Okay, so we still have quite a few results, but let's just kind of look around here. We haven't narrowed by date or anything, so I'm just going to kind of scroll down and see what we get. We have some video results here, and then let's see if we have anything here that is interesting. Well, England is still talking about still time to apply for this September. Let's look at that. You can click on the preview here, or you can click on the title as well, and it will get you into the document. And then you can see, and a nice thing about this, you can still download this or print this. You can let it read it to you. That's pretty cool. And it will highlight in yellow, as other vendors we've seen will highlight in bold, and this it does it in yellow. So that's pretty nice. Okay, so that's a quick way to look. Well, let's go back and look at one other thing. I think over here on the side we can see what we can narrow down by. So we can look at the oldest, if that's what you're looking for, or the newest, or the best match. Or you can update the dates and maybe only include like the last couple years. I'm going to push apply and see what updates. And then you can also see the source type here, where it has lots of different kinds of news outlets here. So we see audio, we see college, university newspaper, we see real newspapers, we see a news wire, magazines, and so magazines that are like, that would be like Time or Newsweek. Those would be the things that would be included here. So feel free to dig around in here. I know that it's sometimes confusing that, you know, Time and Newsweek are really magazines, as opposed to news or newspaper. So depending on what your assignment is, you may find it useful to come in here and use these different sources. So if you had any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to go ahead and close this and just get back on our main page. Okay, I'd like to talk about Google Scholar. So I do have it tagged here, but you can just type it in. Just type in Google Scholar. Now, Google Scholar is a little bit better than Google, I feel. Google, anybody can post anything there. Google Scholar really is looking at research, and it's crawling all the research, like journals that publish on their own websites. They can pull that information in. So a nice thing about Google Scholar is a lot of times the last 6 months is published there, maybe even before it gets into a database, because think about how that takes time to process. A journal has to publish an article, then it has to give that information to a database. The database has to process that information and then get it updated out to their clients. Then we have it pushed to our subscription, and then it's finally available in the database that we're searching. So, I mean, it takes a little bit of time. It's not as long as it used to be, of course, but Google Scholar sometimes is the most current. But sometimes it's nice to use this because it will look through a lot of different things. And with Google Scholar married to our library, then it's still using the resources from the library, as opposed to Google just uses any resource, and anybody can type anything up and put it on Google, and Google just crawls it and will serve it up to you. So you don't know if it's very credible. But I feel like with Google Scholar using library resources, you at least have the authority that the library has collected that item for some reason, and it is being presented to you. So let's make sure we all know how to marry Google Scholar with our library. And we'll just click on these 3 lines up here in the corner. We're looking for settings. If your screen is very tiny, sometimes this little gear is sitting up here, so you want to click there. If not, it should be at the bottom here. And then we're going to look under library links, and we want to make sure that we type in Texas Tech, but nothing else. And then we click search. And we want to make sure that this one, Texas Tech University Libraries, FT at TTU Lib, is checkmarked. You can leave the World Open WorldCat. That is just a large catalog that most of the world participates in now. I'm not going to check the Health Science Center because I don't have privileges there, or the law. And then I'm going to click save so I don't have to do this again. It will be saved to this browser in my Chrome. And then now I can run a search. I'm going to use the same search we've been using. I'm going to look at higher education, ethics in the United States. And then what we're really looking for is, okay, we found something here. Let's see if we can kind of learn how to read this page. It's a little complicated, I feel like. So the title is up here. This is usually the author or authors listed, and then it tells you where it is published. And then if we see a book, then it usually has this little bracket at the front telling you that it's a book. And then there may not be some other information. So here, this is actually a journal, and it tells you the year and who the vendor is. Whereas the book, a lot of times, just tells you, oh, this was published by Taylor and Francis, but in a different way. See, it's probably the book component of this company as opposed to a real journal. So let's say I wanted to read this article. I would look over here to the left and see the FT at TTU Lib. That means that we're going to click on that, and it is now taking us back to the library website to find it within our materials. So that it's like the power of Google with the power of the library working together. So you can see this article was right in Academic Search Complete, the database we were in earlier. So we could open it and read it if we needed to. If we didn't have these options here, we could still use our request it, and it would fill in the form for us, and we could just click submit. So it's really nice. The only thing you need to know about Google Scholar is it doesn't populate to a new window like a database does, so you have to click back to see your results. Now let's look at this. It doesn't have the FT at TTU Lib, but it does have this little chevron here, which means more, the double chevron, and you're going to click on that. And then we're going to look at the get it at TTU Lib. So the FT usually means full text at TTU Lib, whereas the get it means that we probably do not have this in full text, but you could click here and see the request it. So see, no full text available, I can request it. Let's see if it fills out the form for me. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, but it looks like it thinks it's a book now. Let's see if that's what, oh, it is. And so a lot of times when it's not an article, it doesn't necessarily know the information, so you'll have to kind of figure that out. You could put in as much as you knew, and you could look back to Google and see if Google knew anything else, like 2011 and the journal. The other thing is, you see the PDF sitting here? I would not click on that because I don't know where that's coming from. I could guess that it's a journal, but I'm not familiar with that journal. Now, when I see Wiley, I know that as a vendor of ours, so I might be more likely to click on this, or JSTOR. But when I just see something sitting out here that I'm not sure of, I would just take that information and fill in. Let's see if we can get one more to work for us. I just like it when they fill it in, but it doesn't seem to be working. But I could still just go to the main menu, click on journal article, and fill in all the information that I was getting from here. So I could just copy and paste that into this journal. So I put the journal title and the article title and the year. And that's mostly what you need, plus the pages. And then you could hit submit request. We can do that real quick if we want to. So that would be, let's see which one I was looking at. Let's do this one. So that's the title of the article. So we put that here. I'm just going to grab the journal name, is right here. And this was from 2011, if I remember correctly. Now I have a hard time, 14. Oh, yeah, of course. Now I don't know the pages here, but what you can do is you can just say this and you can still submit this. And it will go through, and then they will start looking for it for you. So that is how you can use Google Scholar to find materials as well. And sometimes I like to look at a database like Academic Search Complete and Google Scholar to make sure I just found everything that I wanted to be looking for. Okay, so that is how you can use Google Scholar in conjunction with the library to find some materials. And I'm just going to clean up some windows. We're back on our main page. The only other thing I like to kind of highlight is that we have our chat. You can see the chat box open here. But also, if you're in different pages, when you get into our LibGuides, you can also see the boxes sitting here as well. Feel free to use that from the main page up here. If you need additional help or after hours help, you can always get on Ask a Librarian, and you can submit an email and we'll answer it when we come in the next morning, or you can text us. And occasionally, if I see that when I get up in the morning before I even come in, I will respond to that. We try to meet you wherever you're at, but you know, if you're having a crisis at 3 a.m., sometimes be aware that you may not get a response until like 6 or 7, maybe even 8. So I don't want you to bank on that if you're looking for some resource. That's why I always encourage you to do your research early so that you have all your materials before you sit down to write something. The other thing is you can make an appointment with your librarian, or if you don't know who your librarian is, you can click on here. Taking a bit of a time. So here I am located, and this is what my appointment looks like from even my page, where it had the make an appointment button, and then you can pick the day you wanted to come in. Let's say you wanted to come in on Tuesday, then you could pick a time and follow the form. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You know how to reach me. I'm here to help you in any way I can, not only in this class, but any class that you might be taking here at Tech. Thank you so much.